Fundamentalist Christian Matthew Hagee weighed in on the Ferguson protests. Look at what his solution is.
So the question of today's program on the Hagee Hotline is, how do you govern chaos? I can tell you from my personal experience in life, the way you govern chaos is you never let it begin.
Right.
My father, he had 5 children in his house. 5 kids in one room is a ripe environment for all kinds of chaos.
Right.
You know how he kept chaos from starting? He never let it begin.
Right.
He said, these are the rules. When you break the rules, there's a consequence for the rules. Now, that seems like an overly simple principle, but apply it to this situation in Ferguson. You just mentioned having an area where there can be a peaceful demonstration, but if that demonstration becomes anything other than peaceful, there's a consequence for breaking the rules of this engagement. Consider what we mentioned about the 10 Commandments. How do you govern chaos? Put the 10 Commandments into play in the Ferguson situation.
Right.
Thou shalt not steal. What would that commandment have created in this matter?
Right.
1, there would have never been a reason for there to be an engagement between Michael Brown and Officer Wilson.
Right.
Thou shalt not kill. What would that do in a situation that we see happening with a young man who was assaulted by a pack of teens carrying hammers that beat his car, and then when he stepped out of the car, beat him to death 20 miles from Ferguson in a community just outside of St. Louis?
Right.
You know, we're seeing these kinds of things pop up all over the place, and the excuse is injustice. The truth is we want chaos.
Yeah.
These guys have a one-size-fits-all answer to everything. It doesn't matter what the issue is. Hey, there's poverty here. God. Hey, there's a war. God. Hey, I have chickenpox. God. They never have anything. There's nothing even slightly creative. It's just everything. One-size-fits-all answer, and that will solve all your problems. And then when it doesn't solve all your problems, it doesn't matter. Still try it again, because that's going to solve your problems. I mean, these guys are like witch doctors from the year 1232, putting leeches on everybody's body. When they have a cold, it's like, oh, the leeches will purify your blood. But really, last time you did this, it didn't work. But the leeches will purify your blood. It's like a broken mind. There's no attempt to really problem solve. It's just, God, 10 Commandments. 10 Commandments, really, the 10 Commandments? I printed out a little graphic here of the 10 Commandments. Look at what they are. Do not worship any other gods. How would that help the situation? How does that weigh into Ferguson at all? Do not make any idols. Again, I'm missing this. How does this come into the situation? Do not misuse the name of God. Well, goddamn, is that a dumb fucking thing to say? Keep the Sabbath holy. Again, none of this so far has weighed into the Ferguson situation. Honor your mother and father. Still nothing. Do not murder. Okay, now we get somewhere. Now look, when he was talking about how, the 10 Commandments would have fixed the situation, and he says, thou shalt not kill. I was like, okay, maybe he's going to make a decent point and go on to say, if Darren Wilson applied that, nope. He didn't mention Darren Wilson. He talked about some other non-related thing, which I never heard of and don't even know if it's real. No, but see, that's the thing. This goes back to a point we made earlier in the show, that these guys at their core, what they really are, they're tribalists. They believe that the white power structure is just and right. Christians are just and right. Republicans are just and right. And if you're not part of those groups, well, you're probably wrong and you're probably bad, and we'll just twist the facts to try to meet that. So when you have a white police officer shooting an unarmed black kid in the face when the kid's like 25 to 35 feet away, somehow he doesn't mention that when he says, thou shalt not kill. Somehow it's a different situation that comes up in that conversation. How are we supposed to trust your ability to problem solve when you can't be honest about what happened? You can't. You're an ideologue is what you are, and it's really pathetic and it's really sad. But then also, don't commit adultery. I mean, these are the 10 Commandments. These, maybe 1 or 2 of these weighed into the situation. Only, 3 of them in total are laws. So the idea that the U.S. justice system is based on the 10 Commandments, if we abide by that all the time, everything will be fantastic. No, if you had to make a list of the 10 things that people should never do, it would not be the 10 Commandments. Only like 2 or 3 of them would make it on that list. So it's a ridiculous thing to say. And the last thing I'll say about this is, when they make that point that the answer is the 10 Commandments, no matter what the problem is, the answer is God, the answer is Christianity. understand that we know that that's false. We know, as a matter of fact, that that's not true. How do we know that? Because we have countries in the world right now that are virtually 100% Christian. I'm not kidding. So Greece, for example. Did you know Greece, as of today, is over 99% Christian? And what kind of a situation are they in right now? I mean, they have open fighting in the streets every day between fascist parties, the Golden Dawn, and the communist parties there. Political turmoil, unemployment rate over 25%. They all believe in Christianity, and their country is falling apart. Now, I'm not saying their country's falling apart because they all believe in Christianity, but you also clearly can't say that Christianity fixes every problem, because it doesn't. They wouldn't have a 25% unemployment rate. They wouldn't have political and economic instability if what you're saying is true. Ecuador is another country that has about near 100% Christian rate. How are they doing? You want to move to Ecuador, big guy? Go ahead, move to Ecuador, because Christianity is all you need. The Ten Commandments is all you need. Nonsense. Take your one-size-fits-all policy that belongs in the year 1300 and shove it up your ass, because that's the only place it belongs.